This is Nicole Lehner, the Graduate Teaching Assistant for Dr. Reese in Research Methods, and today we're going to talk about mixed research methods. What are mixed methods of research? Well, they're a combination of both qualitative and quantitative research methods. It draws on the constructs of each the quantitative methods while incorporating the qualitative methods and vice versa. When thinking about utilizing this type of research, one should have a reason for mixing it, not just doing it just because they want to. Think there's a method to the madness. There's a reason why these two should be used together. Sometimes it's called triangulation, which is derived from the idea of land surveying, which pretty much means that the person, when doing the research, will meet at a crossroads at two different places. So utilizing the qualitative and quantitative methods, they meet in one spot. So mixed methods, the research where qualitative and quantitative research methods are combined for a purpose of investigating or furthering the understanding of a research question. And some argue that this combination or triangulation should not take place. And later on, we'll talk about some of the limitations and or the ethical issues with doing it. There are 4 types of mixed methods designs. There's the convergent parallel, exploratory sequential, embedded, transformative, and multi-phase. And next we'll go into each one of those phases and look at how they work from a flowchart perspective. Now, before you get a little stressed out by looking at this flowchart, it actually makes a lot of sense. So for the convergent parallel design, the definition is both quantitative and qualitative research methods are conducted or implemented at the same time. The findings are then integrated with one another, and then they're interpreted together. So as you can see with the 2 boxes, you've got your quantitative data collection and analysis, and at the bottom you have your qualitative data collection and analysis. And these 2 types of methods are brought together, and they're compared or related to one another. And then further, once everything has been looked at and analyzed, they're interpreted together. So as you can see, those 2 are being brought together for one findings or integration and then interpretation. Now for exploratory sequential design, the qualitative method is first to be implemented and then the quantitative method is then added. So you got your quantitative data collection analysis is followed up by your qualitative data collection and analysis, and then you get your interpretation. Or you can have your quantitative data collection and analysis, and it builds up to your qualitative data, and then from there you interpret the data, or you interpret whatever the findings are. So as you can see, there's 2 different ways that the exploratory sequential design works. They can either be one followed up by the other or one building up to the other. Now with the embedded design, when the primary research is either qualitative or quantitative in nature, and in order to build on what is already being researched, the other type is added to supplement the research. So pretty much while the quantitative research is being done, qualitative data collection or analysis is either implemented before the research starts, during the research, or after. And then they're interpreted together. And as you can see with this box, it's a little wonky, and that's because in the transformative design, Creswell and Plano-Clark suggested that design is used for theoretical framework and a perspective with social justice as the focus. So overall, we have to look at the theoretical framework or theoretical perspective with the social justice as the focus to protect vulnerable populations. So your quantitative data collection follows up with your qualitative data collection and then is interpreted for the purpose of the design and theoretical perspective or framework for the social justice focus. So that has got to be your main focus, the social justice focus and the theoretical perspective. And from there, you can go through your quantitative and qualitative analysis. Now with the multi-phase design, the definition is series of qualitative and quantitative designs. One phase informs the next. So this is like step-by-step instructions. Study 1 is qualitative, and then it forms study 2, which is quantitative, which then informs study 3, which is your mixed methods. So it's step-by-step, and that is your multi-phase design. Creswell and Plano-Clark had their designs, which kind of explained the qualitative and quantitative and which one to use when and how to interact the 2. And there's 3 ways that they say that you can implement the 2 studies. You can have qualitative and quantitative with equal importance to both types of research approaches, and then being used concurrently with one another. Or you can have sequential use, which qualitative method has the top priority, and then next is quantitative. Or you can have qualitative methods that are embedded within the quantitative work. And that is what Creswell and Plano-Clark had their 3 designs as. And as I stated earlier, we would talk about some of the strengths and limitations of mixed methods designs. And some of these are the enhanced measurement, validity, generalizability, causal validity, or authenticity, while limiting the extent to which enhancement of goals. So this is something that it does. This is a strength. It enhances these measurements. The experimental design requires a type of control that cannot be achieved in other research settings, so this could be seen as a strength or a limitation. It requires more access to financial resources and an access to arrangements to respondents, which sometimes cannot be obtained, so this is a limitation. So this limitation is financially as well as access to individuals. And then sometimes when using surveys, they can't access behaviors and attitudes of the respondents, and sometimes they have causal influences that cause statistical issues. This is also a limitation. So you get 2 positives and 2 negatives, and so when utilizing mixed methods, you want to make sure that you're looking at it from full scope, like is this going to actually enhance my measurements? Is this going to enhance my goals? Is this a type of control that can be achieved, that cannot be achieved using other types of research methods? Do I have the financial resources and the access to the respondents in order to obtain this information? And are my statistics going to be skewed in some form or fashion by utilizing this types of methods? So that's some of the things you got to look at. Some of the other things is comparing results across studies. You've got meta-analysis and meta-synthesis, which are different types of analyzing data. So your meta-analysis is unlike a traditional literature review. Each study is a case, and its features are variables that are measured, and then they are analyzed statistically. So with a regular lit review, you'll read the article and you incorporate it into your writing based off what the findings were, or the similarities in research, or the type of research method that was used, or the type of study that was conducted. And in this lit review, each case study is its own variable that you break down into multiple different variables. So if the case study talks about incarceration rates, each type of study that they did, or the study that they conducted, they would each be a variable in your meta-analysis. So you could have 5 studies that all study incarceration rates, but they study different populations, and they would each be different variables within your research. And then a meta-synthesis is a method used to integrate findings from qualitative studies. This type of synthesis doesn't just aggregate the findings, but also reinterprets the data once it's aggregated. Additionally, there are some ethics with the mixed methods, and one of them, the role of the researcher is ambiguous because the need to be able to gather the data but also remain autonomous is very difficult in this type of research. You also need to engage periodically to gather data but also collaborate with the community from which the data is collected. So your role kind of changes when you're dealing with mixed methods. There's challenges regarding reactions of individuals based on the roles that they played, or who's playing which role by each person. And then different types of consent when surveying and using human populations for research. The people have to understand their consent to not only give the information, but also go into detail. I hope this was helpful in your understanding of mixed methods designs, and if you need any more information, you can read about it in Chapter 11 of the Fundamentals of Research in Criminology and Criminal Justice. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.